Welcome to Pages and Partners, a Muncie Public Library podcast. Discover the library through our history, buildings, staff, programs, and partnerships. Join us as we explore what makes Muncie Public Library an important part of our community.
Welcome to this episode of Pages and Partners, a podcast from Muncie Public Library. I'm Gabby Sandifer, Great Achiever Supervisor, and I'm joined today by three of our MPL Book Club leaders. We have Taylor Slater, Information Specialist at Kennedy Library. We have Alexis Robertson, Local History and Genealogist Specialist at our Carnegie Library, and Dottie Kreps, Community Engagement Specialist at Marion Hunt Library. If you've ever wondered what really happens in a library book club or thought about joining one yourself, this episode's for you. Today we kick off part of our conversation exploring the unique and engaging book clubs offered across our library branches. This will be one of a two-part episode. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. So we're just going to ask you a few questions about your book club. So first of all, tell us about your book club, the name and what types of books your group reads. How does your book club choose which books to read?
I can go first. I actually moderate two. Well, Taylor and I co-moderate one.
Oh, awesome.
That's Droids and Dragons, and that's a science fiction and fantasy book club. And then I also run Global Perspectives, which is a historical fiction book club. And for that one, it's a little even further specialized, because I try not to focus on U.S. history at all.
Yeah.
I want it to be all international, or if it is in the U.S., it's a minority viewpoint.
That's awesome. Well, and, I feel like growing up in the U.S., we get a lot of the U.S. books. That makes sense. So I like the idea of broadening it. Would you guys like to share about yours?
So I go with Alexis for Droids and Dragons, and that's our science fiction and fantasy. We do half and half science fiction and fantasy.
Yeah.
We don't stick to that, but that's usually what we try for. We usually make a list and then have the group vote on what they want to read, like the 12 they want to read for the year.
I like that. I like that they get to vote, too. I think that's fun. And then Dottie, would you like to share yours?
Mine's a little different.
Yeah.
We just started this book club in May of this year, and it is a cookbook club. It's called Club 641.
Oh my gosh, that's so fun.
So we've looked at kind of getting people into the library to look at what we have in our stacks and what kind of cookbooks they can get. So the Club 641, the 641 is where you'll find all the cookbooks in the library. So that's why it's called Club 641. It's just we get in there and get a variety of cookbooks out and read those.
It's really fun. Well, I like that. I like that we have such a wide variety of two, because, I am like a fantasy girly, so I would probably be up in Droids and Dragons, but I like the idea of the cook one too, especially for people like me who might be more hesitant when it comes to being in the kitchen and just needs to get confidence in their skills. So what is the vibe like in your guys' meetings? Are they more relaxed and chatty, or are they more like focused and structured, just so people can kind of know what they're signing up for?
I can go first again. For Droids and Dragons, I would say it's pretty relaxed and chatty, but we do have a structure that we follow. And then for Global Perspectives, again, it's the structure, but I also think we're pretty relaxed and chatty too. And what I really want people to get out of that particular book club is other knowledge of other cultures and viewpoints through stories. So I really think that stories have the power to overcome difference. And so that's kind of a big component of that. The other part of it, too, is that I'm really big into trying to show that history isn't boring. And I think historical fiction is a gateway. So that's kind of really the vibe
historical fiction
of Global Perspectives.
Yes.
That's what people love about that book club.
That's awesome. Well, and, there was a quote when I was in college that a professor said to me when talking about literacy, and she said, books are either, this isn't a quote by her, this is a quote by someone else, I can't think of it right now, but they talked about how books can be windows where you can look into like other cultures or other ideas. They can be mirrors where they reflect back to you, or they can be sliding glass doors where they actually move and you can go and experience that. So I think that's really powerful that you're kind of putting that into practice by wanting to show people that like history and learning does not have to be boring. It's actually very exciting and cool. So I love that. And then Taylor, what about the structure for yours?
We usually have like a set of questions we've made up. Mm-hmm. We don't necessarily stick to that. Like this last discussion we had for Iron Window, I didn't ask any of my questions because that discussion just took off on its own.
That means it was really good. Such a good book choice, though.
We haven't had to do that the last 2 books.
Yeah.
Like, it was great. We didn't have to do our jobs. We just talked.
But see, that's what you want. Like, I feel like that's a good book club when it like runs itself, where everyone comes with their copy and they're like, oh my gosh, like I just have stuff to share right now.
Yeah, we usually just start with like, how'd you like the book? And then I usually will put a question in if there's like a lull, but like we said, there wasn't this last time.
That's awesome. I love that. I love to hear that. And then what about the vibe for yours?
So ours
Dottie?
is just very open. What we want people to do is take the cookbooks home and kind of read through them, look at them, and then try different recipes. And then when they come to the next meeting, then we'll kind of review the cookbook. What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? What recipes did you try? Did you change anything in the recipe? So it's very open and just there's not really any structured questions. But yeah, we just want to see what cookbooks people liked and what they didn't like, and just try whatever recipes and bring your tips and tricks.
And maybe even a snack that you made. Who knows? Just not in the library. Don't eat inside the library, please. That's my librarian coming up. Don't eat in the library. We have designated eating spaces. Awesome. So when and where do your book clubs meet? And we'll just kind of go in the pattern that we have been. So
I'll
first,
let you handle Droids and Dragons.
all right.
For Global Perspectives, we meet in the Carnegie Library meeting room on the second Wednesday of the month. So right now, our next round of books is going to be August to November this year, and then I'll take a winter break because I usually put in a break. And I will mention too, which I kind of forgot to mention with the first question, is that we used to be a bi-monthly book club, but I've added a film component, so in our off months, we watch a film, if that's something that might interest you. So you don't have to necessarily read the book for that. I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself, but I wanted to put that out there because I forgot about
that's really important to know because, there might be some people who are like, well, I'm not the biggest reader, but they would come to every film one. So, yeah, that's awesome. Taylor, what about you? What's when and where does your book club meet?
Droids and Dragons is the second Monday of the month at Kennedy Library, and we also have a Zoom option that we have a small group that utilizes that. You just have to register for the link.
Great. And then your new club, Dottie, when does it meet
It
and
meets
where?
the fourth Thursday of the month from 5:30 to 6:30 at the Marion Hunt Meeting Room. But in November and December, because those fall on holidays, we'll meet on the third Thursday.
Great. And you can also find all of these dates on our calendar. You can go to, I think it's now mumple.org. You can use the shorthand to get to our website. And when you go, you just look at our calendar and you can find all the dates. And you can also search through and put the book club or adult or things that you're interested in. You can also call our information services and they can help get you that information as well. So you guys have touched on a few, maybe briefly mentioned a book or things, but what are some of the books that your club has read recently?
So this year, Global Perspectives has read one from Colombia that took place during the height of the Pablo Escobar era, Fruit of the Drunken Tree by Ingrid Rojas Contreras. And she actually lived during that time. She lived that period as a child. So it was kind of it was a story based on her experiences as a child. Hula by Jasmine Iolani Hakes. Now, this is a U.S. one, but it takes place in Hawaii, during the 1960s to 1980s. And that story is from the viewpoint of the indigenous peoples of Hawaii. And The House of Doors, which was our most recent June pick, by Tan Tuan Ang, which takes place in Malaysia during the 1920s.
Wow, yeah. You really do cover a lot of different cultures. That's fascinating.
We try.
Absolutely. And then Taylor, what are some books you guys have read recently in Droids and Dragons?
We've had Jade City by Fonda Lee, The Book of Coley by M.R. Carey, and Down Below Station by C.J., I think it's Cherry, and then Red Rising by Pierce Brown.
Cool, cool. And then Dottie, what are some of the cookbooks that your book club have been looking at?
So we did breads and biscuits. So we had two books. Yeah, those are fun.
The best carbs.
Yes. So we did one, the cookbook United States of Bread, and then we did the other one was Biscuit Bliss, and then we're doing salads. So we got a potato salad book and just a summer salad book.
Wonderful, wonderful. Let me find what question I am on. All right, here we go. So what is one of your favorite books that your club has read and discussed in the past? Kind of, I guess, one of your Hall of Famers. And I know yours is still growing, so it can either be one that you've done or one that you're really looking forward to. But we'll stick to one you guys have done because yours have some history to them.
Well, this is always hard for me because I always feel like this is asking a mother to pick her favorite child. And I just, as a parent, I don't do that because my kids would get mad. But I will say I had to look back at the titles in preparation for this. When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill, that was a great book. It was a very feminist, fantastical take on like the 1950s and the struggles that women went through in the 1950s and the rage they had. It was very much a rage book. The Collapsing Empire by John Scalzi, and I'd recommend anything by him. He's a fantastic author. And The Snow Queen by Joan DeVinge, and Dragon Song by Anne McCaffrey. That's for Droids and Dragons. For Global Perspectives, The Henna Artist by Alka Joshi was definitely one of my favorites. I love India. I have, like, one of my best friends from college is from India, and I fell in love with the culture. So pretty much anything from India I'll read. And Under the Udala Trees, which was kind of an LGBTQ book set in Africa.
Wonderful, wonderful. And then Taylor, what are some of your Hall of Famers?
The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I read that whole series, and the month before we even talked about the first one, and I loved it so much. Stormfront by Jim Butcher and Six of Crows by Lee Bardugo were some old favorites when we read them for the club. I'm kind of the same with Alexis. I loved them a lot, and I mean, there's some that I didn't, but there's more that I loved than didn't.
Well, and I always sometimes, like, even if I don't like a book, I can appreciate the work and effort that went into it. I don't know if you guys feel that way sometimes, but even if I don't enjoy the book, I can appreciate that, like, well, some other people might enjoy this. This may not be for me, but I'm not going to yuck someone's yum, you know, so.
Or, you know, if it's something that it's like you feel you have to read it because it's such a classic. Like, I recently just read The Three-Body Problem, which was just kind of huge in Chinese science fiction. And although it really wasn't necessarily my cup of tea, like I didn't love it, I'm glad I read it because it's something that was so influential to the genre, excuse me.
That's how I felt when I read We Have Always Lived in This Castle by Shirley Jackson. I had read that because I'm like a horror girly and I kind of wanted some of those like really classic ones. And it wasn't exactly for me, but I was glad I read it because there's a lot of tropes that I recognize from that like have been utilized within the genre. So yeah, I get that. Sometimes they are worth reading. They're classics for a reason. Like there's a reason they're a classic. So did you have any others you wanted to share? Or
That was it.
all right. I know I can gab a bit. So, and then Dottie, what are either some of your Hall of Famers or ones you're just really pumped to like explore or things like that?
Well, the ones that we just did on the bread, those were kind of fun. Those the two books, they really delved into like the history of bread in the United States, which was kind of fun, and then the different flours and how each region has its own like cornbread depending on what's available. So those just gave a little bit of history about
That's
how
cool, yeah.
how different breads came about in different regions of the United States. So that was fun. And then the other one gave just little stories about what and those are the cookbooks I like that have just not the recipes, but if they've got a little story to go with it about, you know, why this recipe was put in the book because it was, you know, her grandmother's, you know, favorite recipe, and this is what she remembered as a child at Christmas, or just, those cookbooks I really enjoy those that have just a little story behind each recipe or some tip or trick with each recipe.
That's really sweet. I like that a lot. I like one historical thing that I like too that I read was flour, how they used to have patterns on the flour during the Great Depression because it would allow women would literally sew like outfits out of these, and so they started doing different patterns and stuff. So a lot of food and history goes hand in hand. So I think that's really cool that you pointed that out. So thank you guys for sharing your little Hall of Famers. I like this. I want to join like all of these clubs, and then like I'm gonna be booked like every night of the week, like just reading all the time. But that's a good problem to have. So for listeners who might be new to the idea, how would you describe what a book club is and what someone can expect when they join? So like, let's say someone's never done a book club, they decide they want to do one, what would their sign up and then first time joining look like?
Well, I think if you join a book club, you should expect that we're going to talk about books.
True that.
Usually the one we've
True
read
that.
for the month, but we do talk about other things. Droids and Dragons particularly, they like to talk about other things or personal experiences. But I think book clubs are a great way to meet, socialize, and exchange ideas or viewpoints. It's just a great way to get another perspective that you may not have thought of while you read the book.
I love that. That was so beautifully said. I love
Oh,
that.
thank you. I don't feel like it is, but
No,
thank you
that
for
was
the
lovely.
compliment.
Love that. And then Taylor, what would people expect with yours?
One thing I'd like to point out is that you don't have to be a big talker to join a book club. If you just want to come and listen to other perspectives, that's totally welcome. Also, Droids and Dragons, the group gets really into recommendations. So you're going to come away with your TBR just growing every time. Also, like I mentioned, we do Zoom. So you would have to register for that link or join. We have a Facebook group that we also distribute that link to. But otherwise, you don't have to register to come. You don't even have to have a library card.
Oh, pay attention to that. You don't even have to have a library card to join. I think that's a really important thing. For almost everything at the library, the only time you need a library card is if you're checking out materials and leaving. You can come and hang out in our spaces. You can attend our programming. You can read books within the library, pull them off the shelf and read them. You just can't take them out of the building without a library card. So please come. You don't have to have a library card to explore the library.
I have one thing that I want to add to that, too, just so that people know. You don't even necessarily have to be in our service district, too, because Droids and Dragons, since we have the Zoom option, my mom goes to that because she loves science fiction. She lives in Shelbyville, Indiana. We have somebody who used to come to our physical one. He lives in Pennsylvania now, and he still comes. So I had somebody come for Global Perspectives from Anderson. So don't feel like you're limited to location.
I love that. I love that a lot.
And with my cookbook or the book club, it's a little different from most of the book clubs
Yeah.
with MPL because it's not a traditional book where you read the book and come discuss it.
You have to cook every recipe in a month's time and bring it.
So with this book club, it's more about trying different recipes than coming and talking about, what you used. Did you use a different ingredient? Did it work? Did it not work? And then just some things we'll, talk about memories of growing up in the kitchen, or, if you're new to the kitchen, what questions did you have for our more experienced bakers and cooks?
Well, food's a really emotional thing, too. Food isn't just filling, it holds memories and culture. So I think that's really cool that, someone could share something from their culture, too. Well, my mom taught me that if you do this, and that could be, someone might go home and be like, this is changing everything.
Yes.
So I think that's great that it's a place for people to share their tips, tricks, and ideas. So thank you guys for sharing. So for someone thinking about joining a book club, what would you say makes your group a great one to be part of? What's your elevator pitch, your, pick me? What is your, specialty with yours?
I don't know that I really would say that I have a specialty. I just think we have a really great, amazing, accepting crowd of people for both book clubs. They're very comfortable sharing their viewpoints and experiences. They bring really unique things to the table for Global Perspectives particularly. They really enjoy learning about other cultures presented in these books. So if you like talking about all these different cultures and places through stories, Global Perspectives is a great group to be part of. And then Droids and Dragons, they just have a lot of different perspectives that they bring to the table. And I'll let Taylor handle the rest of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, our group is not scared to share their opinions, which I absolutely love. You can definitely feel safe doing the same. I just think it's a really safe place to share your book discussion. There's no judgment, just good talks.
That's awesome.
And our group is really small and just new, but if you enjoy food, if you enjoy field trips, because we want to take a field trip or two,
How
and
fun.
we're going to have guest chefs come in, so we're going to do some cookie decorating and cake decorating. So yeah, it's just share your kitchen knowledge with everyone.
How fun. Gosh, I want to join all of these. So do people need to read the whole book, or is it okay to show up even if you're not finished? That's actually a really great question.
Honestly, I don't even care if they've read the book. If they just want to come and get comfortable and get to know us, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And they're gonna pick up a lot from coming to our book club. They might pick up something new, or they're gonna get a new recommendation on a
Yeah.
book.
Yeah, I've always said if you don't mind spoilers, you don't have to have read the book.
And of course, with the cookbook, you don't have to read. You can, pick and choose what you want to read.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I really, I like that, because that might be a barrier, especially for, my reading goes through phases. There's sometimes that I am chewing through books, and then there's other times where it'll take me 2 months to finish a book. So I like that even if you're not quite there yet, you can still go and join the group and enjoy just discussing and talking about new ideas and new books. In your experience, what makes for a really great book discussion?
Well, I would say mixed viewpoints always, just because I like hearing what people have to say. But for global perspectives, I would add that personal experience can really add to the mix too. Since we read Hula in December, we actually had a couple of people, I think, who had been to Hawaii and kind of experienced or seen what some of the indigenous people were going through there. So that really added to our discussion for that. For Droids and Dragons, which, Taylor will talk a little bit more about, I would say that some of the best discussions that we've had have really centered on books that they've either disliked or just downright hated or found problematic. Those have been the best discussions for us.
Little bit of friction, not
Yeah.
bad friction, but good conflict or good disagreement.
Yeah.
I love those conversations. I think they're really fun.
I really like it when they just hate the book and just bash on it the entire time. I find it so much fun. There was a book that I had that
The look you guys do. So for people who are not watching, Alexis and Taylor just shot each other the most knowing look ever. They knew immediately what it was. So what happened here?
So it's a book that I read in high school, and I put it on the voting list. I didn't think they were going to vote for it, but they
always
did,
surprise us.
and I said nothing, and they all hated it. It was it's one of the ones I have on my these are my favorite books of all time, and I love that discussion so much. It's probably still one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, one of my all-time favorite series is Twilight, and I don't care what anyone
Yes.
says.
Yep.
I was a young girl when it came out, and I love Edward Cullen, and I don't care what anyone says. But yeah, it's funny because there are books that you read when you were little, so they're so romanticized that you're these are my babies.
What's really even funnier about that, we knew Taylor had read that book as a high schooler, and so everybody was bashing on it, and my spouse also goes to this book club, and he's like, Taylor, are you doing all right?
No, it was still
I
one
bet
of
that
my
was so
favorites.
fun for you to
Oh, it
sit and
was.
just be like,
Yes. As soon as I realized that it was on the list, I was like, oh, this is going to be so awesome.
Yeah. She knew it, too. She's like, they're all going to hate it.
that's so funny. I sometimes I love to hate read something. I do. Sometimes I'm I love fantasy, but sometimes the tropes are so funny. I'm like, oh, she's so small. Oh, she's gonna get the biggest sword.
Yeah.
Shocker. Oh, the dragon chose her. It's just I love that type of. Oh, it's so fun.
Yeah.
And then what about you, Dottie?
I don't have quite the
Someone comes in.
right.
This is the worst cookbook I've ever
Oh,
used.
goodness.
No, our discussion is more about what types of things did they use, or were there different, some it is, they didn't like the recipe. So, there is a little bit of, we hated this recipe but the discussion is more, about food and how it fits into their life and what they grew up with. And one of our last discussions, we were talking about salads, because that's we're doing pasta salads and potato salads, and just growing up gardening and canning. So the discussion was about growing up and what those memories were about working out in the garden with your grandparents, and what the whole canning process was. And some people nowadays have no idea what it takes to put put food up for the winter. So it was
like I've never canned, but my mom had a garden and my Grammy did, so I would help out in the garden all the time, and I was used to like fresh garden veggies. But I had a friend who just got into canning, and she was explaining it to me, and I was like it is a very extensive process.
Yes.
So that's neat that people can bring parts of their like history and talk about it. I like that a lot. Is there a book on your list for this year that you are especially looking forward to discussing? Now, I know we're halfway through the year, so it can either be one that like you've discussed that you loved, or one that you're really, really, really looking forward to.
I don't have one that I'm particularly looking forward to for Global Perspectives, and quite honestly, I look forward to all of them because I like to hear what people have to say
I feel
about
like
them.
it's kind of like apples to oranges to even compare them, because they're all different like life experiences.
Yeah, but I will say for Droids and Dragons, I'm really looking forward to the one we're doing in July, which is The Adventures of Amina As-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. I've actually been wanting to read that since it came out, and it's very apt for summer because it's a pirate on the high seas adventure, but has a Dungeons and Dragons flavor if you're like really into Dungeons and Dragons.
I'm going to need this title written down after this.
I think it'll be fun, a good read for summer.
Yeah, I would like to read that. I might be joining Droids and Dragons because I love D&D and I love fantasy, so wonderful. What about you, Taylor?
Here There Be Gerblins by Clint McElroy. It's a graphic novel based off of a podcast he does with his three sons, which is a Dungeons and Dragons play podcast. But I've loved that since it started, and I'm just really excited to share with the group in November.
I like that he does it with his three sons.
Yeah.
That's sweet. That's really sweet. And then Dottie, do you have one?
I don't really. The one month I'm looking forward to is where they can go in and pick any cookbook they want from the library, and
Dealer's Choice.
Dealer's Choice, and then come back and just do a review and tell us what what recipes they found in there. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to, just the pick your cookbook.
That's fun. I like that. I think that would be really interesting to see what people choose. This one's good because we kind of already touched on this a tiny bit, but have you ever had a book that completely divided the group? And then what happened during that discussion? Because it sounds like that one, although it sounds like that wasn't a divide. It was just you against everyone. But, so Alexis, do you have one that just split the room in half?
For Global Perspectives, no. I looked through all the titles, and I'm like, no, I don't think we were super split on it. They either liked it or just thought it was meh. They've honestly, I've been really lucky. They've pretty much liked most of the titles, if not all of the titles.
Well, and I feel like with
done.
that type of like genre too, even if it's not that like interesting to you, you can still appreciate the history behind it. Like, so even if it's like, well, if that's not the type of history I gravitate towards, you can still be like, that's an important story to tell.
Or, they've also just gravitated towards specific things. Like with The Ghost Bride, they loved the descriptions of the food and the descriptions of the places because she was a very good author about describing her setting. Now for Droids and Dragons, there's always somebody that either loves or hates the book, so that's not odd for us. It's a lot more odd if we all liked, or actually what's more fun is when we all disliked the book. Like The Wind-Up Girl was one we all just bashed.
Yeah.
And it was a Hugo Award winner, and oddly enough, the Hugos, if you're familiar with sci-fi awards, are pretty big in that world. And I think all of the Hugos we've read have been duds.
Yeah.
I don't even want to read a Hugo anymore for that
so
book
funny.
club. But yeah, we all thoroughly bashed The Wind-Up Girl, and it still gets mentioned. Like Tithe, not as much as Tithe,
But yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, if they didn't like the book, it always seems to come back to I liked it more than The Wind-Up Girl. I don't know why.
that's our base of comparison.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's not Tithe was the one that I thought was my favorite. And then The Wind-Up Girl was just one that just everybody hated. Nobody liked reading it.
That probably makes you feel better, though. Like, if you really didn't like a book, and then you get to your book club, and everyone's like, oh. And then you're like, oh, thank you, someone said it. And then, Dottie, I don't know if there could be if they don't like salads,
Right,
I guess. But, yeah, there's that.
Or if they don't like bread, that I don't know how you couldn't like bread, but there's some people. But
I can see there being an argument about ingredients. Like, why are these ingredients so hard to find? Or why are,
That's true, yeah. That's funny.
we haven't had any, like, really.
Trying to imagine, like, a split room over, like, a roast. Like, this pot roast just didn't cut it for me. Like, that's funny. How big is your book club, and does the size ever affect how discussions go? Because, that might be a really, if there's 2 people in there, a discussion can only go so far.
Yeah, we've not had that small of a group, but right now we're down to kind of a handful of 4 to 5 that regularly attend. I think we might have to rethink the night that we meet at some point, because I know a lot of people who used to come, they just can't make that night. We'll see. But yeah, size can definitely affect discussion, but especially if you have like a quiet group of people, or if it was a meh book. But we usually have a good discussion for Global Perspectives.
Yeah, that's great.
Droids and Dragons usually somewhere around 10, including the people that are on Zoom. We've had quite a few new faces show up this year, so I've enjoyed hearing their voices mixed with the old group that we've had for quite a while.
That's wonderful.
We have quite a small group. We're hoping to grow it, but it's new. So, but the discussion's been good. So
That's great. That's wonderful. Well, and I feel like with smaller groups versus bigger groups, you just get different types of discussions. Because sometimes I feel like if you have a large group, they'll break off into smaller like subgroups and discuss. Whereas if you have a smaller group, it's kind of a more like whole group I'm getting into my teacher pedagogy now. I'm just going to stop talking. No one wants to hear about teacher pedagogy on the library podcast. And, this looks like this is our last question. And then if you guys want to share anything else after this question, of course, I'll invite you to. But if you could invite any author, living or dead, to one of your book club meetings, who would it be and why?
Well, hands down, it would be Sharon K. Penman, who is my all-time favorite historical fiction author. She actually died a couple of years ago, so she had cancer. She wrote historical fiction set in Great Britain and in extension France, because the Angevins at the time, the ruling family of England, actually ruled half of France too. They're set during the 11th and 12th centuries. I actually had the opportunity to meet her briefly at a book club signing, so that was really cool. But if anybody knows me, I'm like obsessed with Wales and medieval Welsh history. Mm-hmm. So she was actually the author who got me to fall in love with that.
Oh, how wonderful. I'm so glad you got to meet her before she passed, too. Mm-hmm. That's so wonderful.
For Droids and Dragons, if I had anybody attend that one, I would say Frank Herbert or Anne McCaffrey, just because they're just such great world builders, and I massively just respect that, because that's just such a lot to be able to do, and they've both built widely popular series in their universes.
That's awesome. That's great. What about you, Taylor?
I would go with V.E. Schwab, or I don't think we liked the book.
It was a meh. It was a meh. Some people did like it, some people didn't. It wasn't like a favorite.
But I just think I think she's a really interesting author, the different stuff that I've read of her.
Did she write, I think I might have just started the audiobook. Did she write The Invisible Life of Addie LaRoe? I
really liked that one. I wish we would have read that one.
So I just started that audiobook, like literally this morning. Mm-hmm. I started it while I was getting ready. So it's interesting that you say that she's like one of your favorite authors.
She just writes different stuff. She doesn't write all the same thing. So I really like that. So I think it should be interesting. Or Patrick Rothfuss. I just think if we made him like us enough, maybe he would give us some hints on his Killer Chronicles.
He needs to finish that.
I love that. You're like, maybe if he likes us enough, we can know. Oh, that's awesome. And then Dottie, do you have any like famous chefs or cookbook like writers that you would want to invite in?
I had 2. The quintessential Julia Childs. I think that she would be so much fun to meet in person and just have a chat with. And the other one who recently published some food book, Stanley Tucci.
I'd come to that meeting.
I would too. I would want to get a picture of our director next to Stanley Tucci because they look kind of similar. I want a picture of both of them next to each other like that. Yeah. Julia Child, do you remember that movie that came out in the 2000s, like Julia and Julia?
Yes.
I love that movie,
that
and I
was
love
great.
Julia Child.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I would come to both of those, yeah. Well, this has been such a treat to hear you guys talk about your book clubs. And I love hearing people talk about something they're passionate about. And I can tell each one of you are really passionate about creating a space for people to come and share ideas and talk about, just different things that they're enjoying and reading or different things they didn't like reading. I just think it's a really fun space for people to connect. And I love that you don't have to have a library card. You don't even have to read the book. You can just come and enjoy being around people and talking about books, different cultures, different fantasy, and different things to eat. So I'm going to give you guys each a chance. If you want, you can share just a final thing. If not, you can just wish our viewers well.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to share other than this talk of food is making me hungry.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I hope to see some new faces. It would be great to get more people involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just stop by if you're interested.
Absolutely.
And with the cookbook club, even if you've never been in a kitchen, come and you might learn something that wants you might want to go into the kitchen and make something fun. But all of the cookbooks that we're going to have, I'm going to make a list and leave it at the information desk or at the circulation desk. So if you join us late, but you want to try out one of the cookbooks from our previous meetings, all of that list will be at the library.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. This was such a fun conversation. I really enjoyed this. I have 3 book clubs I want to join now, and I have to make sure I delegate my time wisely, but you might see me there too. Thank you all for tuning in and listening, and in the meantime, keep reading.
This has been Pages and Partners, a Muncie Public Library podcast. For more information about library events and resources, visit munpl.org.